talking about India again, the economy has been going through tough times over the last 2 to 3 years. While to an extent the government has managed to tame the cat, it has managed to meet fiscal deficit targets, there are still concerns and we are not out of the woods completely yet. From the CEOs that you've been talking to, from the companies that you've been talking to, could the second half of the next 1 year be better than what we were expecting? Could we expect a rebound of sorts?
Well, I think people are optimistic. They would like to see that. You know, what's interesting to me is when you think about the global economy today, investors have a lot of opportunities, right? And so they look at you know, a whole series of factors that really drive their decisions about where to invest, where the best opportunities are. The risk reward, as we all know about it. India has a phenomenal amount of opportunity, but they've got challenges as well. So when you think about the upcoming elections, which I know is getting a lot of discussion, a lot of debate here in India, I think business is looking for some clarity as to you know, the results of this election, you know, how business friendly will the new government be in terms of regulations, in terms of policies that really provide incentives for investment, clarity on taxes, things that really, you know, matter to an investor in terms of making a decision about whether to invest in India or Brazil or some other market around the world. And I think that's where the opportunities lie, and we're going to be very interested to follow the results, as many will be here, of these elections.
But you know, you literally stole the words out of my mouth. The sense is that big investors are sort of hitting the pause button for some time while taking big investment decisions and saying, let's wait till the elections are over. Once the elections are out of the way, do you expect an uptick or do you expect things to remain the same? Do you feel that it will take some time for people to actually make big decisions? And secondly, do you feel that there could be, or that there is a fear of a possibility of a U-turn in the crucial reforms that have been implemented?
You know, I think generally speaking, what business always wants to see is clarity. They want to know what the rules of the game really are, so that they can make the evaluation as to whether or not this risk reward that I talked about is within, you know, their focus areas of what they're trying to get accomplished. And I think the elections itself, and then the clarity that comes from the new administration in terms of how they're going to enact policies that you know, support growth, that support investment, are going to be absolutely critical. So I don't expect that you'll see a turn right away, because I think, like anything else, you're going to have to see exactly how some of these new policies get developed and get communicated and implemented. But nonetheless, they're looking for signals. Where is this new administration going? Are they pointed in a similar direction, a different direction? And what degree of consistency will they see coming forward? So I think you'll begin to get a feel for the direction here, you know, once the new government is formed and policies begun to get developed.
Fair enough. Dennis, you spoke about taxation, and that seems to be a hot topic when it comes to boardroom discussions, be it transfer pricing, be it litigations. The uncertainties in India with respect to taxation issues, is that a deterrent when it comes to companies looking at investing or expanding in India?
I think it's an issue anywhere around the world. In other words, what business wants to have is absolute clarity as to what the rules are and how the rules are going to be applied. And so, you know, when a particular country, whether it's India or the United States or any other part of the world, doesn't provide that type of clarity, that is a factor that businesses will look at in evaluating whether or not the opportunities in a particular country are as good here or somewhere else. And so, therefore, I think it's absolutely crucial, you know, that India as a country really begins to provide that type of clarity, consistency in terms of, you know, the tax policies and direction of those policies for the future.
You know, if I look at specifics, you know, if you take GST, if you take DTC, there have been concerns about the fact that they haven't yet been implemented. How positive would it be if the coming government were to look at implementing this on priority?
Look, I think anything that is pro-investment, pro-support of policies that would be implemented quickly would be a very, very positive side to assign to the investment community that this is the direction that this government wants to follow. This is what you can expect to see going forward, and I think there would be a natural uptick as a result of that.
And a GST would be a positive?
Absolutely, I think so.
Going forward, if a government were to implement it. You know, let me ask you then, There have been issues with respect to transfer pricing brought out, of course, by Vodafone, the tax tussle, which has, of course, caught headlines. I'm not going to go into the to and fro's of it because there have been many.
Yeah.
What I want to understand from you, Vodafone's stance of including the 3,700 crore transfer pricing issue, is that, or would you agree with that point?
So without commenting on a specific company, obviously, you know, what's really interesting is, I think, as we step back and we look at the overall issue driving taxation, you know, many countries have tax systems that were put into place for the old model. In other words, it was the old manufacturing model where it was very clear where value is determined, how you transfer that value to another part of the world. And let's face it, today's economy is very, very different, as you just alluded to, right? You got intellectual capital issues. You've got where's the real value creation coming from? You know, certainly technology sectors, healthcare sectors, and the list can go on and on and on. The challenge we have is a very outdated international tax system that countries have got to step back and say, going forward, how should that tax system work, you know, in a particular area? And the problem, as you can imagine, is that every country around the world is looking at this issue because part of it is you want to have a competitive tax system that will attract, you know, the investment capital and jobs, you know, into a country. So trying to get a level-setting, balanced view around all of that has got to be one of the key challenges that we're facing from a global economic standpoint. Clearly, there's work being done on that issue today, but the reality is, if anything ever comes out of it, there will be winners and there will be losers. And so individual countries are still going to have to evaluate, you know, what is the protocol policies that they want to use to really attract investment, attract jobs in a economic environment that's very different today than what it was 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago. That's one of the big challenges that's out there.
And you know, I agree with you on that point. And the reason why I mentioned Vodafone is because when I talk to investors individually, they mention the Vodafone case, because why would I invest as much as I am looking to or interested in when there is a stand-up example over here? What I want to understand from you, do you feel the government has done enough or can do enough to ensure that investors don't take that one case to hold on to?
Look, I think governments can do an awful lot to provide clarity as to what the rules are, what the rules of the games are, not only today when you make an investment, but importantly 5 to 10 to 15 years from now as that investment really works through the system. That's what investors want. They want, you know, that kind of assurance that the rules are understood and that they'll be implemented based on that understanding. And I think the more that governments can do, whether it's India or anywhere around the world, that will provide more comfort and more confidence to investors in making those types of decisions that are not just for the short term, as you know, they're very much for the longer term.